Now, 11 years ago, I was handed a leaflet by a youngish, kindly-looking man, who I later found out was David Wolstenholme. At which point I changed the description. But anyway, he approached me on Cheney's Parade, and I thought, aye, what's going on here? You know, as you do. And he handed me a leaflet that said, "Library closing, can you help?" All of you have been invited here today. I've been invited along because one way or another you've contributed towards the success of the library. The first thing is that we have a committee that's really, really unusual. They're more at ease with doing things than they are talking about them. And that's a wonderful attribute to have in a committee. And without their support and enthusiasm, this library would not exist. That's a fact. I mean, that's really where the driving force comes from. And it's great working with them, and I'm really grateful for all their efforts. Another high point, being granted the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service back in 2011. Just to be quite clear, that's the MBE for volunteering groups, so it's a high award. It was a really good reflection of all the efforts that everybody had put in to actually make the library a success, and also frankly made it a role model for others. It was also great to have the Lord Lieutenant of Buckinghamshire in full regalia in the library, complete with spurs and sword, to hand over our award. It was absolutely an excellent time. On the subject of being a role model for others, in the peak period of library closures, which was 2010 to probably early 2014, we worked with 130 communities all over England, and many cloned our model of a library. In fact, many of them used our documentation and our methodology, etc. It's very heartwarming to think that there are a number of other communities who have a community library to enjoy as a result, and it was good to share with them. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big hand to star of stage and screen, Martin Text.
Well, Jim, thank you for that very short introduction, because clearly 10 years, it just seems amazing. It's like those times when you look back and you think, my God, was I ever really that young? And you realise it was 10 years ago. But actually, for me, it wasn't 10 years. It was actually 2005, as Jim said, when a dashingly handsome and then much younger local resident stood for the county council. And the very first meeting he went to, the then leadership of the council announced that one of their key strategic policies was to close 7 of the county's libraries, 2 of which, in fact, happened to be the only 2 in my new division. And I thought, hang on, I'm not sure I'm too keen on this. And it's not terribly good when you actually are married to an ex-librarian either. And you tell her the first thing you're being asked to do is to vote to close both the libraries. So very quickly a campaign got going, and there's many faces in this room I recognised from that campaign all those years ago. So from around 2005 to about 2007, I think it was, there was quite a big campaign around here. So there was an enormous amount of local opposition to that closure, which led to the creation, cutting an incredibly long story short, to the creation of the community libraries here. And it's hard to believe now that this was one of the very first community libraries in the country. Very closely followed by St Giles, as they always remind me. And this is now, as Jim said, really a role model that is followed right across the UK. I mean, you will find visitors coming here from virtually every corner of England in particular to see how it's done here and to learn from the work that people like Jim have led for us here. Now, I remember also that when we had those first meetings here, when we were actually trying to get the library up and running, one of the things the county council said when they agreed it would become a community library was, first of all, it's never going to last. You guys won't be going in a year's time. This is doomed to failure. And actually, they were determined it would fail, because one of the things they said when they eventually agreed that we could run this as a community library is not a single solitary pound of county money would go into this. Not a single pound. Not only just that, but they emptied the library. They literally took all the books off the shelves, they took the little trolleys out, And it's a bit like, I don't, any of you bought one of those houses when you were younger where you walk in and actually they've unscrewed the toilet roll holder. They've taken the light bulbs out as they left. It was just like that. I remember somebody saying, they've even taken the kettle. Right? There was nothing left here that could be unscrewed and removed. So it was literally a shell that we inherited in those days. And people had to rebuild from that. And I remember there was an enormous voluntary collection of books from across the village. Those of us who were around in those days remember the large numbers of boxes that we had to carry into Jane Duncan's warehouse. And that was like an enormous mausoleum in there, but we filled it with all these boxes of books that the residents of this area donated. And that was fantastic. That really showed us just how many copies of Harry Potter everybody had. And gradually the place started to come back to life again. And since then actually what we've seen is this move from being the first version of a sort of community library into becoming very much not just a national role model, but very much the centre of the village. I think this is very much the hub of the village now. And its role has grown so much because it's no longer a sort of book mausoleum, which it was when the county ran it, when you could walk in and you could see the layer of dust on the top of books that had had no new book fund in probably about 15 years. Now, almost every time you come in here, you've got the latest editions of all the new current books that are out. And that's what makes a library, because if you can't read the current books, why would you come in? And also it's broadened out. It's gone from books and traditional CDs, it's gone into, my mother-in-law comes down for Nis and Natter. This is her social hub. This is where she comes to meet her friends. This is where her life revolves around being in here. And then you've got the computer lessons, and we've got now the computer extension over there. I remember, Jim, when we opened that up, that was brilliant. To see that as a facility locally here. We've got the children's story times. We've got the visits from local schools like the Chalfont Valley Academy. And I'm told there's a local volunteer in this room who helps organise the film nights as well, Helen. So, this is very much a hub for things for like the film nights as well. So this is fantastic, and it's moved from something that, quite frankly, under a previous regime, the County Council was actually a bit ashamed of and didn't really want to work, to something the County Council is now incredibly proud of. Now, what wouldn't work is just the concept without the people. And I know Jim has said many times, this is not about a building, it's about the people. And this is where I'm going to forget lots of people, so I'm going to apologise in advance, but I just have a little roll call of my own. I'm going to pay tribute to, I think, the first chairman, who was John Greensmith, I think I saw. And of course there is the living legend, who is Jim, without whom this library would not be what it is. You deserve immense credit for where this library is today. There's also, and I'm going to mention the other living legend, David Wolstenholme again. David, where would this library be without you? You are again the people that keep this library going. And each and every one of you know who you are. You know the place in the heart of the community that you represent. And again, you are a fantastic group who are fantastic, quite frankly, part of this community, and you do it proud. So from me, my thanks, I think, on behalf of everybody for the role that you all collectively play, every single volunteer. So thank you. I'm also going to mention the Parish Council, because they are a core part of the funding stream for the library, along with the volunteers and the donations that you get. And I think it would be wrong not to pay tribute to the current chairman of the Parish Council, but all your predecessors and your members as well, because it's been your donations in terms of funding that's actually provided the core for the funding stream for the library. What is brilliant, and George, where's George? Who's Mr. Treasurer? I know he's here, I think I saw him earlier. Over there. Yeah. Where is he? He's probably watching the screen. Yeah, he's probably counting the money actually. What is really great, and was the big worry if you go back 10 years or so, was the financial viability of it, because certainly there were people within the then leadership of the County Council who just kept saying to me, you're right, you're fighting a lost cause, this will never be viable. In a year it will be gone, in 5 years it will be a distant memory. It will never have enough money to keep going. And not only is it still here 10 years later, but it is financially strong and financially viable. One of the things I think that's been really great about this library is you've not become, if you like, frozen in aspect. It's not like this isn't the library you inherited 10 years ago. If you kept that library just as it was, I'm not sure it would be here. But you've adapted, you've innovated over those 10 years with all those new audiences that you brought into the library, the new things you've done with the library, and that's what's kept it very much alive and kept it relevant today as the hub of the village. From me, a very sincere thank you to everybody here. You've been fantastic, and thank you all very much. And now the cake. The cake.
A line between a little and a but between a word line.
Like that?
Yeah, lovely, beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful.
1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
There you go.
Thank you, Martin. Well done. Thank you.